The tragedy of Nigeria began in 1986 when we did the structural adjustment program. When we were persuaded to devalue our currency every week for 32 years. When I went to school, and many of you are here, the Naira was $1.50. The Naira was almost £1 sterling. They came here, persuaded some brilliant men from Harvard and the World Bank that weekly devaluation was wonderful. 32 years of devaluing your currency until we hit 527. And they were still telling us that the Naira was still overvalued. That brought poverty, misery upon us. Then interest rates went to 30%. So nobody could build a factory, start a farm, produce anything, or create jobs. Because every time you bring in a shipload of rice, you also bring in a shipload of unemployment. Because you are transferring your wealth to sustain other economies. Somehow, Nigerians didn't notice it. So we became a nation of importers. Toothpicks. Each year it cost us $18 million. Importing toothpicks. Tomato paste, $400 million. So you talked about tomatoes now. One basket in town now is less than 2,000 naira. The farmers are losing money because the processors don't have enough funds to set up factories. You are going to do tomato paste. It's food-grade stainless steel. You can't just use anything because you'll be putting poison in people's stomachs. 2 factories have started off. I believe by the middle of next year, we can comfortably tell importers of tomato paste to stop. But when you do, you make enemies. Even the rice we're trying to reduce, we have enemies. Heavy enemies. People who can kill if they have a chance. Because you're spoiling their business. And let nobody take it lightly. These guys have seized this country's economy. They've taken us hostage. And they have no intention of giving up. Because this is a huge market. A very sweet market. And they have taken control. This regime is unpopular in part because it is trying to cut down imports and transfer the wealth to our rural people. And I'm saying it because I have been in this business for 41 years and I can tell you some history. Abdullah Adamu is here. Import milk, sugar, toothpicks, toothpaste, handkerchiefs, pencils. We don't make. To cure Nigerians of that malady will take a while. It will take a strong government. That's the truth. And they're not happy that we're cutting down. When we cut down, they lose money there. So you see all sorts of publications. We're telling lies. We're not growing rice. We're trying to demoralize the local farmers and make sure that the economy fails. That's the story of imports. Now, I read a story recently in the newspapers. The French ambassador, the champagne ambassador in Nigeria, gave an article to The Guardian. He said Nigerians love life. We are the biggest consumers of champagne on planet Earth, more than the French who make it. There are parties you attend in some places where they only drink champagne. Of course, the individual is free to spend his money, but his money comes from Nigeria's commonwealth. So on imports, it will take a while for us to get used to local goods and accept that we should consume what we produce and produce what we want to consume. I take your point. We have to take stern measures to cut down on imports because these young boys and girls who have no jobs today are not going to allow us to carry on enjoying life at their expense. They need jobs. They need jobs. They are children. They've graduated, they've come back home to begin a second childhood because there's no factory to employ them. And the ministries can't take any more. But somebody is making sure you fail when you want to produce at home.
Alright, you've just watched that powerful and honestly unsettling submission by former Agriculture Minister Audu Ogbeh, right there on the floor of the National Assembly, and if we're being sincere, what he said is not just a speech, it's a summary of 38 years of Nigeria's suffering wrapped inside one testimony. Let's break it down, because what Ogbeh explained is not just old history. No. It is the exact blueprint of how Nigeria arrived at this point. The currency crash, inflation, unemployment, insecurity, import addiction, everything starts from one moment in 1986. The beginning of Nigeria's economic decline, 1986. When Ogbe said this problem started in 1986, he wasn't exaggerating. 1986 was the year Nigeria adopted the Structural Adjustment Program, SAP. And the heart of SAP was one dangerous policy. Weekly currency devaluation. Not yearly. Not quarterly. Weekly. Imagine waking up every week and the value of your salary, your savings, your business capital, everything, has automatically dropped. And this continued not for 1 year. Not 5 years. Not 10 years. But for 32 years straight. 32 years of squeezing the life out of the Naira. Ogbe said it boldly. We became the only country on earth devaluing our currency every week. And what happens when your currency keeps falling? Prices go up. Investors run. Local factories collapse. People lose jobs. This is why today, everything you buy, from bread to fuel to transport, feels like punishment. Because the foundation was destroyed from the 1980s. How devaluation killed Nigerian industries. When your currency becomes weak, importing becomes expensive, and exporting becomes cheap. But Nigeria did the opposite. Instead of protecting our local industries, we opened the floodgates and turned the entire country into a dumping ground for imported goods. China, India, Dubai, Europe, everybody discovered Nigeria as a market where you can dump anything and sell it fast. This is how we killed our textile mills, our tire factories, our assembly plants, our paper mills, our food processing companies. Everything. Ogbe said it clearly. Importation destroyed our ability to produce. And once production dies, unemployment explodes. People who should be working in factories shifted into Okada riding, Kiki, POS jobs, street trading, or simply staying jobless. An entire generation grew up without seeing a real manufacturing company near their home. Rising unemployment, the silent bomb. When industries collapsed, millions of youth were pushed out of productive work. And a country with no jobs will always face crime, fraud, banditry, drug abuse, terrorism. Unemployment is not just an economic problem, it is a security problem. Odo Agbe hinted at that. He said when a country cannot feed itself or employ its youth, the result is always chaos. And we are living that chaos today. The security breakdown. Today insecurity is so normal we hardly react anymore. Banditry, kidnapping, cattle rustling, herders crisis, oil theft, pipeline vandalism. These things don't come from nowhere. They grow from poverty, joblessness, a weak economy, and a frustrated population. When a nation weakens its currency for 32 years, industries die. When industries die, jobs die. When jobs die, security dies. It's a straight line. The power supply disaster, Nigeria's biggest development killer. Ogbe also touched on another painful truth, electricity. Because even if Nigeria wanted to industrialize again, we simply don't have power. Factories cannot run on diesel. Small businesses cannot survive on generators. A country cannot develop on 3 hours of power per day. Power is the spine of industrialization. Without power, you can't manufacture. You can't process food. You can't store farm products. You can't employ people at scale. This is why so many multinational companies quietly left. Michelin, Dunlop, Volkswagen, Procter & Gamble, GSK, ShopRite, Mr. Price, and countless local factories. Not because Nigeria lacks talent. Not because Nigerians are lazy. But because you cannot compete with generators and diesel at 1,700 Nigerian Nairas per litre. Agriculture destroyed, imports celebrated. Ogbe also raised a heavy point. Nigeria once exported palm oil and fed West Africa. But by the 1990s and 2000s, we were importing rice, tomato paste, toothpick, fish, chicken, beans, wheat, even simple gari in some regions. Every imported item equals one closed factory in Nigeria. Every container entering the port equals one job lost to another country. This is how nations remain poor. Generations born into a broken system. Ogbeh's story shows something deeper. Nigeria is not just suffering from bad governance today. We are living inside the consequences of decades of wrong decisions. Decisions that destroyed the Naira, local industries, youth employment, agriculture, power supply, security. This is why the problem feels bigger than any one president. Because the roots are deep and the foundation is weak. Why his statement is going viral now. People are sharing this video because it finally explains the chaos we are seeing today. Ogbeh didn't speak like a politician. He spoke like someone who saw the rot from the beginning. And Nigerians are finally realizing. The problem didn't start with Buhari. It didn't start with Jonathan. It didn't start with Tinubu. It started decades ago, in 1986. That is why today the economy feels like a mountain nobody can climb. So where do we go from here? The message from Ogbeh's speech is clear. Nigeria must stop endless currency devaluation, protect local industries, support manufacturing, fix electricity urgently, control reckless importation, empower SMEs, invest in agriculture properly, and tackle unemployment like a national emergency. Otherwise, no matter who becomes president, Nigeria will keep repeating the same cycle. You've heard his testimony. You've seen the history. And now you understand why today feels the way it feels. Nigeria didn't collapse in one day. It collapsed piece by piece, week by week. From 1986 until now. And until we rebuild the foundation, the building will keep shaking.